Good afternoon. I'm Martin Gibbs. This is Brian Jukes. We're partners in Dafferns Chartered Accountants in Coventry. And we're both on lockdown, aren't we, Brian?
We are going a bit stir crazy, but still thinking about the world of tax and accounting.
Absolutely. So this is, well, we're approaching Easter. Normally when we're in the office, we walk up to Marks and Spencer's every lunchtime together and we put the world to rights, and it's getting on for 2 weeks. Or is this week 2 or week 3?
This is week 3.
This is week 3. We're coming towards the end of week 3. It's a long time since we've walked up to Marks and Spencer's. And yes, on the walk, we normally put the world to rights, and we're talking about loads of things really, but cars are something which quite often is quite close to the top of our list. We're both car enthusiasts to a greater or lesser extent.
Yeah, Martin to a greater extent.
Yeah, I mean, your car history then, Brian. Tell me what's the most interesting and what the least interesting car is that you've ever owned.
Well, I started out with a really uninteresting car, which was a Ford Sierra. It was a beast of a thing, really heavy, no power steering. It was absolutely awful, but at the time I thought it was wonderful. But yes, I've moved on a bit since then.
How old were you then?
Oh, 21, 22, something like that.
Okay, yep.
Yeah.
And at the other end of the range?
At the other end of the spectrum, the most interesting was perhaps a little too interesting for a little while. That was a Nissan Skyline GTR, which was very fast, very powerful, probably extremely dangerous in terms of losing your license. But I managed to keep a completely points-free license whilst I had it, which is probably a miracle. But yes, eventually I saw sense and got rid of that.
Well, I remember that well. I remember my then 8-year-old son, Matthew, thinking you were a car god with this Nissan Skyline outside the office. And yeah, well, I can't boast anything quite as wild as your Nissan, but I think my probably my most interesting and non-accountancy car was my Lotus Elise that I had for nearly 3 years, which is going back 10 years now. That was good fun, open top motoring. And my least interesting car, I have to say, I owned an Austin Montego for 4 years during the 1990s, a car described by Quentin Wilson as the a price-driven choice for the uninitiated. And yes, I can still remember the quote. But so we've been through our cars a bit of in recent years. We've both been drawn into the 4-cylinder turbo diesel route, along with so many other people. So and really the thing that's been interesting us both of late is your current position and the alternatives that are available to you. So what have you got at the moment, and what was the horizon before the world fell apart?
Well, yeah, this was taxing my mind, no pun intended, before the world fell apart, because I have a nearly 4-year-old Audi A4 2-litre turbo diesel. It's a lovely car. I'm very happy with it, but I have to replace it or buy it out of its contract, and that decision is coming up very soon. So I was starting to look into what my options were, and of course, the world has changed somewhat. Not the coronavirus issue, I mean the world in terms of the motoring world. Should you go for a diesel? Should you go for a petrol? Should you go for a hybrid? Or perhaps take the plunge and go all the way for an all-electric? So this has been taxing my mind.
Yes. And at the same time that you're doing that, I've gone slightly the other direction, and I've got a BMW with a petrol engine that does about low 20s to the gallon if I'm lucky.
Yeah.
Which is not the direction that, well, you were sort of looking that direction, because I know you were considering an Audi S4, the estate version, but the new version of that doesn't have a petrol engine. It has a diesel engine, of all things.
It does.
So, I think we're both of the view that diesel is not necessarily the way forward. It doesn't make a smart choice, I think, in terms of the residual of the car, even though I think probably diesels are no worse for the environment than, you know, a good modern 4-cylinder diesel is no worse for the environment than a petrol. But petrols are the way we're going. So I think for a while we were both, I think we both thought that I was speccing cars up on the Audi configurator, and for you, and the other thing I used to do at lunchtime. But and then I think in parallel with each other, just after Christmas, I was telling you about a video I watched on Harry Metcalf's YouTube channel, which is called Harry's Garage. He's a guy he's the guy who founded Evo magazine, and he's got quite an extensive car collection, and he does a whole load of interesting car videos for middle-aged gentlemen. And but he reviews a number of cars, but he had a car in from Jaguar Land Rover that was a Range Rover Sport plug-in hybrid that had got a 3-litre. It's got a 2. It's the 2-litre, isn't it? It's got the 2-litre Igenium petrol engine, 300 brake horsepower, with a 100 horsepower electric motor. So it's a plug-in hybrid, but it only does, they say, about 25 miles on electric. But the point that Harry Metcalf was making in his video was that if you can charge up overnight, for the majority of people, 25 miles, that might be your commute. And if you can do the bulk of your mileage on electric and just not have the range anxiety by having a plug-in hybrid, isn't this plug-in hybrid the game changer? And I remember espousing this point to you on one of our walks up to Marks and Spencer's, which then led you to sort of open up on where your thoughts were heading on your next car.
Absolutely. I'd already been looking at the Q5 plug-in hybrids, and whilst initially I thought, is that just a silly idea? After you pointed me in the direction of the Harry's Garage video, I thought, maybe it's not such a silly idea. There are people out there thinking the same way as me, and actually some of them are saying, this is a good idea, let's do it. So I started doing some more research, and eventually it led me down the path of writing an article about electric vehicles and the direction of travel of the industry. And that piqued some interest from some of my clients, and in particular one client who has gone the whole hog, all electric, electric setup at home, generating his own electricity, etc., etc. So he got in touch and suggested I go and see him.
Now, not that your blog articles on the Dafferns website don't all attract a huge amount of interest, but I do remember that this particular article, it got quite a few people talking. I know it got shared on Facebook, and actually probably got more comments on Facebook than any other blog article I can remember. And I think at the time, and again, 2 months ago, it seems a very, very long time ago, and the world has changed considerably since then. But as a bit of a diversion as we head up to Easter, I think it's hopefully one day we will return to a scenario where hopefully the two of us will be able to afford cars like that when the world gets back to normal. But no, on the website, the blog article is still on the website, and we'll stick a link to it in the description to this video. But yeah, so back over. So I seem to remember you starting off on one of our walks up to Marks and Spencer's by sussing out how amenable I might be to the idea of getting some charging stations installed in the office car park.
That's exactly right, and I was somewhat surprised by how amenable you were, because
absolutely,
you'd obviously been watching the video by then.
That was exactly it. Yeah.
I did some research also into what that would entail and what government grants might be available, and discovered there's actually a government grant available both for home and office installation of charging points. Yeah. So you're not on your own, put it that way. The governments are trying to incentivize us to do this. So yeah, that that meant we could really make it work for us in terms of owning a partial or whole electric vehicle, because we could put it on charge in the office at relatively low cost. But I wanted to take it a little bit further than that. I wanted to look into all electric as well. And in my article, I intimated that there was a little bit of me that was still open to that option. And this particular client is very green, very keen to encourage all of us to be as green as possible. And so he got in touch and suggested I have a chat with him. So knowing that we were already talking about this and we were both interested in electric vehicles, I thought I'll take him up on that. That could be very interesting.
Yeah.
So we fixed up a time to meet, and I went along, and it was a very, very interesting conversation, I have to say. And I think you might say that I'm absolutely converted.
Okay.
Would you like me to tell you more?
Well, absolutely. All I can say is that it doesn't sound like you'll be driving to Scotland on holiday in your electric car then, no?
Well, that is a whole different story, but yeah. So what does my client have? He has solar panels on his roofs at home, quite a significant array of solar panels. So he's generating quite a bit of his own electricity. He's also installed 2 large battery storage facilities, which allows him to take the surplus electricity that he's generating during the day and store that, so that it's available then to be used when there's more people in the house of an evening, and also, and here's the real clincher, overnight when you want to plug your car in to be charged.
Okay.
So all this electricity that you've generated during the day can then be fed into your electric vehicle to give it a full charge, or a pretty much full charge, all from your own devices. That there's no electricity coming in from the grid during the day. Now he does have a little bit of a boost during the night. He does just have maybe about a tenth of his total electricity usage comes in overnight from the grid, but most of his electricity is as green as it could be. So this is charging his electric vehicle. By the way, he has a Jaguar I-Pace.
Okay.
It's charging his electric vehicle for the vast majority of its requirements.
Yep.
So he is virtually fully self-sufficient. And the part that isn't self-sufficient is obtained from a green energy company, a company that is generating all of its electricity from solar, wind, water.
Ignoring the footprint of where the electricity gets generated and the footprint generated by the batteries that go in the car, but apart from that,
therein lies another story. The batteries, yes.
Yeah.
I could talk to you for a long time about batteries, but I won't. So this then got me onto thinking, should I go all electric?
Okay.
And I have to say the answer is yes, I should, when I can afford it, if and when I can afford it.
Okay.
And the answer, the real clincher as to why, is because if you go for a plug-in hybrid, you have 2 engines in your car. You're going to be lugging around 2 engines all the time.
True.
So that gives you extra weight and also extra things that can go wrong. So you're going to be running a relatively inefficient car because the electric is powering all of that extra weight. Or you're going to be running a car that's going to cost an awful lot, or an awful lot to service.
So the next question is, because as we've discussed before with all electric cars, it is all about the range and range anxiety. Our respective wives are not going to be very happy because we both go to Scotland on holiday. We both do a lot of mileage when we go on holiday. So I don't think range anxiety in the remote parts of Scotland, or sitting at a service station for an hour, a couple of hours trying to sort of charge up. So, well, you better put me out of my misery. What are you looking at car-wise?
Well, it's between the I-Pace and
Okay.
the Audi e-tron.
Yep.
And I suppose you can't ignore Tesla. The
True.
Teslas are nice cars. They really have got the electric market well shorn up, particularly in terms of the charging infrastructure that they have in place.
Yeah, which is a significant point. The problem with Teslas that from the research that I've done is Tesla don't do finance. So to buy a Tesla, you've got to go through an independent finance company, which ought not to be a problem. There's going to be specialists out there that will do a PCP or a lease deal on a Tesla, but a Tesla that costs the thick end of 100 grand, that's a significant amount of money to be borrowing on a bank loan. Maybe I know if you get it on a PCP or on a lease, it's the same thing, but it is slightly different. So personally, I'm put off a little bit with Teslas not doing finance, but that might be something that changes in due course.
I think it will, and in particular, the Tesla 3 is a bit of a game changer because that's coming in at a much more affordable price.
Yeah.
That's more like 50,000 or even less. So I think we might see, once Tesla have got their production line up and running, I think they're struggling with producing enough Tesla 3s. But once that's happening, then we might well see Tesla changing their whole business model.
Yeah.
But I have a slight problem with Tesla. I don't like Elon Musk. Maybe that's just a personal thing. Perhaps it's slightly irrational, but ultimately I don't like Tesla, and therefore I wouldn't be going down that path.
This is the man who left Facebook on a point of principle. So I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that you're not necessarily a fan of Elon Musk. What's the range on one of those Teslas? They're over 200 miles, aren't they?
Yeah, they're all over 200 miles. There is one that actually hits 300 miles. I think that's a Tesla X. Yeah. But yes, I think the rule of thumb is don't buy an electric vehicle that has a range of less than 200 miles.
Okay.
Because otherwise it's not going to be flexible enough.
So, I mean, I think that's really interesting and a really good point. I think for me, something like a plug-in hybrid. I mean, for me, we're not due to change we've got a Land Rover Discovery, which is our main family dog lugging transport, and the one we go on holiday in. We're not due to change that until next year. So something like the new Defender, long wheelbase Defender plug-in hybrid, which may well be available by that point. That's something I'd be very interested in. So it would be a 2-litre petrol, which, carrying 2 engines around, but the 2-litre petrol would get me to the north of Scotland, and the electric motor would be ideal for pottering around locally, moving dogs and granddaughter around. So
yes,
I think for me, plug-in hybrid at the moment. But I can, I change cars slightly more often than you perhaps. So I only look at a sort of a 2 to 3 year window, whereas you look at probably a 4-year window. So I would have thought maybe my next car will be a plug-in hybrid, but I can see the one after that is going to be electric. They were saying that by 2023, virtually no car will be sold that doesn't have a cable of some sort, or isn't at least partially electric. So yes. We will wait and see. First of all, we've got to get through this coronavirus lockdown. We've got to make sure that we're still remaining relevant to our clients, and we're all still in business and generating some money to enable us to buy these cars. Hopefully hopefully, you know, the sensible measures that we're taking at the moment, along with all other small business owners, are going to get us through this this crisis. But it's nice to have a bit of a daydream about cars at a time when all we seem to be talking about is advising clients on furloughing and C-bills loans and government grants and so on. Yeah, it's been it's an interesting diversion. Have you got sign off for an electric car from your other half?
Yes, in terms of the green credentials, she's all for it, as you might imagine.
Yeah.
In terms of the range, well, that's just something we'll have to plan.
Yeah.
And I think the big positive that I gained from my client from that conversation was that it is perfectly possible to plan, and there is an awful lot of infrastructure out there to help you to plan.
Yeah.
So a trip to Scotland, for instance, you wouldn't do it in one trip. In one go. You would break it up overnight.
Yeah.
So you would stop at a hotel in Carlisle that has charging facility that was part of the package, and you would charge overnight, and on you go for the rest of your journey.
And certainly, I know from going up the M6 to Scotland, is it T-Bay? It's one of the ones up there that has got a huge Tesla charging, a whole load of Tesla charging points, and the Tesla charging stations tend to be, is it 150 kilowatt? They're big, beefy ones, whereas the ones you have at home might be sort of like a 7 kilowatt or something.
That's right.
So, and you can get to 80% charge in about 45 minutes in a Tesla on one of those beefy fast chargers.
I think the 150 kilowatt will charge to 80% in about 25 minutes.
Wow.
If your car is capable of taking that speed of charge.
So that really that's just a pit stop for a Costa coffee,
Exactly.
and on you go. So yeah. Okay. Well, I think we can see the way, we can see the direction, we can see the future on this, and maybe before the coronavirus crisis is out and before we are back at the office, maybe we'll have a follow up as another metaphorical walk up to Marks and Spencer's. It's normally about 20 minutes there and 20 minutes back. I haven't been keeping track of time, so it'd be interesting to see whether we are over the half hour. Yeah, that's been good. And I'll see you on Zoom tomorrow for one of our many team meetings.
Thank you for letting me elucidate you on my thoughts.
Okay. Anyway, thanks a lot, Brian. So just a reminder, I'm Martin Gibbs. This is Brian Jukes. He's our corporate tax partner. We're from Dafferns Chartered Accountants. So for more information on electric cars and anything you want to know about the coronavirus crisis that impacts small business, check out dafferns.com. And we'll see you soon. Thanks then. Cheers. Bye.
Cheers.